In this video, guys, we're going to be looking at eating an 800 calorie breakfast or maybe even lunch, depending on how late in the day you have your first meal. We're going to be able to have plus or minus 200 calories from this meal just by taking away and adding a few ingredients. I've done the hard work for you for a breakfast I had yesterday that I'm going to have again today. The data is already in a calorie tracking app that I use called Cronometer. I actually recorded a separate video on this identical meal just to show you how I put all the data in. So if you want a little bit more of a detailed video and a tutorial on how to use these apps and actually input the information, then go and check out that video. Also, guys, I am a personal trainer and nutrition coach. I work with people one-to-one, but I also want to launch something a little bit more accessible, which is a group coaching course on getting people to start to learn how to manage and track their calories, which you could do in an affordable way as a part of a community. If that's something that might interest you, then please go to my website, sign up, and as soon as I have 10 people, because this is part of something I want to launch, then you'll be the first to know, and I will welcome you into that community, and I'll be excited to kick it off. The one thing I really enjoy about the calorie tracking experience is actually how many doors it opens in terms of becoming aware and conscious of your nutrition and your diet, and not just thinking about calories. The experience and stories become so much more. So even if you don't do that along with me, please think about investing in it yourself. Diving straight into this, so I use something called Cronometer. Today we're going to look at the online website version of this, but I do most of the time use the app to input the information. But actually there's a slightly different presentation of stuff when you look at it on the screen. The one thing you can't see on the app, which I'm just going to highlight here just in case you use Cronometer in the future, is a breakdown by meal, which Cronometer, I would love if you get that into the app. Here we're going to talk about the breakfast I had, and I put a little bit of oil into the pan to cook my 3 eggs. And just so you know, I am abroad at the moment and I'm using a lot of rough quantities, and the one skill that you develop by doing calorie counting properly at home with the weighing scales is just the intuition to know roughly how much calories you're eating, and then your brain kind of knows how much you're consuming throughout the day and if it's the right amount for the amount of activities you're actually doing. When it comes to these things, I'm going to have to guesstimate a little bit, but with good experience, how much these things are weighing. When it comes to olive oil, a teaspoon of olive oil is about 5 grams and a tablespoon is about 15 grams. When I was on a keto diet, and actually this breakfast is slightly inspired by keto as it is a bit more on the fat heavy side, I used to actually have a tablespoon of olive oil in the evening if I was struggling to get all my calories in. And I didn't mind too much because olive oil is meant to be good for you. So here we go. The breakfast consisted of 3 eggs cooked in about a teaspoon of olive oil. So you're going to see that here. So eggs cooked. An egg is about 50 or slightly over 50 grams. And actually when I have 3 eggs in England, most of the time they weigh about 160 grams. So I've just left that the same because the eye test for me was good enough and it looked like the same quantity. I know a teaspoon is about 5 grams and that's how much I used. The avocado I ate here was actually really large, and a large avocado in the UK, perhaps half of that is about 100 grams. And this felt like it was about the same, if not slightly more, but I've gone with 100 grams because at the end of the day, this is not an exact science. Even if we get all the numbers right, there is some element of error that is just embedded in nutrition information. So don't worry too much about getting the perfect answer. The next thing I want to talk about is Greek yogurt. This is something, again, I would have in England. A big dollop is about 30 grams in England. And here, for some reason, when I looked at it, the eye test told me that it was slightly less than 3 dollops I have in England, so about 90 grams usually. Sometimes that can be even 100 grams or a little bit more. Here, the eye test told me it was about 80 grams. So if you're at home and you're using Greek yogurt, then 3 big dollops, then you might be slightly above this. It might be 90 grams. But again, it's a roundabout figure. Walnuts. So in the UK, I have this little tin and I've weighed it out. So when I have this roughly full in terms of walnuts and almonds, it's about 30 grams of each. As part of this breakfast, I've only put 15 grams in, even though I ate the whole tin yesterday. I was quite hungry. But we're going to talk about that later when we think about adjusting up and down calories. So in terms of walnuts and almonds, you can think of a big palm full being about 30 grams, so you may want to have half of that with your breakfast. And of course, a similar amount of walnuts, a little bit less dense, so you may want a little bit more quantity. And I had 15 grams of walnuts. But we're going to talk about adjusting later, but walnuts I would prefer to keep in than almonds if I was adjusting one of these out. I had a green bell pepper, and green bell peppers are great for vitamin C. So they make up the majority of my breakfast. They are so packed with vitamin C compared to the things we think that have vitamin C in there. It's a staple for me. The next ones, and as you'll see, these don't really kind of move the needle when it comes to including the bell pepper, including the watercress. But at the end of the day, these are vegetables, and vegetables we know are full of really good nutrients. So they make up a part of our diet, and they don't actually add many calories in. So these aren't one of the things you're going to be thinking about adjusting. Papaya raw. So if you were on a strict keto diet, then this might be the one that you want to think about adjusting in and out. But I would usually have blueberries in the UK, but I really like papaya here. And the quantity I had was about 70 grams, and I had that along with the yogurt. And like I said, almonds raw was about 15 grams. And as I come to the top here, you'll see that this whole meal came to about 773 calories. Now, if I wanted to adjust this down, let's say you're a smaller person or you're being less active on a particular day for whatever reason, if I take away 55 grams, just assuming an egg is about 55 grams, you're going to see the calorie here drops by about 80 calories. And then simply, if I was to take away the almonds here, I'm not going to physically take it away, but if I was, you would see this would drop by about 90. So we would be down to about 600 calories. And if you wanted to, adjust it down further, because whatever your calorie needs are, and I've actually recorded a separate video. If you want to go and try and figure that out on the internet, you can put it in very quickly into a calculator and it'll give you a rough estimate. And I do emphasize rough estimate. The best way to figure out how you're doing with calories is actually to think about them, calculate them, manage them, and think about your weight on the side as well. Again, one final caveat is your weight is obviously not consistent with just weight loss, but also things to do with water retention, and it's kind of an interesting thing. So don't get too fixated on one of these things. There's lots of things to think about here. That's why I coach it and talk about it online. So ultimately, if you were to take the almonds away as part of this meal with 2 eggs instead of 3, then you would be at around 600 mark for calories. Now, if you actually wanted to adjust this meal up because you wanted more calories, perhaps for someone like me, then actually let me take this up to the amount of walnuts and almonds I did consume. Let me take the eggs back up to what was part of my meal yesterday. Well, I'm getting pretty close to 1,000 calories, and if I was to put a little bit more Greek yogurt in, then probably get there. The other thing is, for someone like me, maybe sometimes I want to eat just 2 meals or maybe 2 meals and a snack. That means even at 1,000 calories for my first meal of the day, I still need quite a lot of calories if I'm being active, because my calorie intake would be around 3,000, maybe even more, depending on how active I've been. So for me, if I wanted to adjust this up even further, I may think about adding a protein shake. So for me, that's Form. I really like this protein shake because the sweeteners in it are stevia, not the other kind of artificial ones that I don't like as much. So if I add that to my diary, it's not a huge amount. Where's that gone in? It's gone in up here, so I just drag it down. It's not a huge amount, and it's taken my breakfast up to over 1,000 calories, 1,100 calories. And obviously I could add an egg in if I really wanted more. So there you go. You ended the video, you have found out now how to have roughly an 800 calorie breakfast. And now I will obviously be doing future videos on some of the other meals and running through those. So if you want to keep up with them, subscribe, follow along. Like I said, if you want to be a part of a community that I launch in terms of doing this on a weekly basis with other people doing it, it's going to be a really useful thing, because the skill of actually tracking your calories with the busy lives we live these days and actually doing it can be quite a frustrating thing. So doing that as part of a group with some direction from me can be something that's going to unlock it for you and unlock your weight loss, weight gain, weight control, and just being more in control of your nutrition and how you feel about it journey. So yeah, go sign up if you want to, and I shall see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.